Pandemonium Reigns.
Volunteers, 2023 Super Bowl champions, hosting the South Carolina Gamecocks. Get it done, win the playoffs, right? Headed to Disney World. This is Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. Thanks for tuning in with us. Letting us be all up in your business, tickling your ears. I've decided that we're going to make a tickling your ears t-shirt just as soon as we make our base t-shirt. We do have real jobs. With that being said, you can hit like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get right into it. 2023 Super Bowl champ. Man, who'd have thunk it?
Not me, man. I mean, yeah, I expected Tennessee to win the game, but I didn't expect to win a Super Bowl. So, college football stays full of surprises. It really does.
Yeah. So with that said, yeah,
I've actually got. Oh, sorry. I think this perfectly encapsulates how much of an island college football players live on, because Spencer Rattler's clearly not seeing Tennessee.
I hear you. I think a lot of that has to do with Beamer.
I'm sure they had a quick sesh, before the podium of, hey, it was their Super Bowl. I'm gonna go make a TikTok real quick. Look at my shoes.
I imagine it made it to the pregame. Y'all boys, you need to be ready. Like, get ready because this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need to harp out around that too long. Whatever. What's done is done. I'm so glad it's over. I am so glad it's over. I'm so glad that we've obviously come out of this with a win. After that Florida game, I knew the formula going in, what had to be done. Didn't know if it could be done. Mm-hmm. Had a lot of concern with Rattler's legs. Had a lot of concern with Leggett, however you want to say it. Had a little concern with the energy that we were going to have. You both you and I picked us to win, but we picked us not to cover.
Yep.
But we covered, and we did it well.
Yeah, we absolutely did. And on the way to the win, or through the win, that's the longest win streak at home since one that ran 96 to 2000. It's now been Georgia 2021 since Tennessee's lost at home 14 games, I believe, that's new. That's new is what that is. Mm-hmm. Or it's been a while. Clearly, the defense, my God, was out of its mind, and I'm not just speaking to the pass rush, because Lord knows it was fantastic and did what it was supposed to do to that offensive line. That's very subpar. That's very thin and young. But I mean, everybody else, the tackling was much better.
It was.
They hit a 75 or so yard run. That was 7 of their points. The interception set up 7 more of their points, and they drove the field for 2 field goals. That's different for Tennessee.
Yeah. You did want me to mention that I saw Mario Anderson play in middle school.
How about that? Yeah, I mean that's really random. Really random.
He's a graduate of Stratford High School, and I was youth pastor of First Baptist Goose Creek, so right there in the backwoods. So we did saw him play some. Pretty sure it was either middle school or junior varsity ball, and he was obviously different, and not in size, in vision and in speed, which I thought he showed. On Saturday night. You mentioned tackling. I wish that I could take credit for the acknowledgement of this stat, but Locked On Vols, Eric Kane. So just in case we get accused of fraud, he points out that Wesley Walker has 5 tackles on the stat sheet. Okay. But then he says 4 out of the 5 of those ended South Carolina drives.
Wow. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, and I, one stands out that I think they threw behind the line of scrimmage to Doty, their former quarterback, that is.
Yeah.
Another, I think, it was that I'm actually thinking of Judy Lawley that had a tackle on maybe South Carolina's first drive to Leggett, where I believe it was Judy Lawley that brought him down. But yeah, Wesley Walker, Haddon, several guys, certainly James Pierce playing their best game, arguably in Orange at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes me wish that every game was 7:30 blackout, because they looked like they fed off of it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, let's tackle this one side of the ball at the time. I'd really like to start with the South Carolina offense, since we're kind of already all in this way. My concern was Rattler extending plays with his legs and just creating havoc and issues in that department. That was not an issue. He did it one play that I recall, and I believe it was their opening drive, if not their very first play from scrimmage. Thought we had him in the backfield there, scrambles out. Not even sure what the play design was. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought, well, this is going to be the story of the night. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
Boy, was I wrong. Because here's another stat for you coming from PFF. James Pierce Jr., 9 quarterback pressures.
Jeez, man.
9.
Jeez.
And I don't think that includes his sacks.
I don't think
that includes his sacks. So
it may. Even if it does, what a freaking stat. I mean, seriously, the best game this defense has played in a minute.
I told you that I wanted 5. I wanted 5 coming every play. I wanted to test the offensive line. We really tested them. We really just tested the tackles.
Yeah.
With Joseph's had a good game. Obviously with James Pierce, Tyler Barron had a good game. I think for the most part, we just rushed 4.
I'm pretty sure you're correct. I remember obviously some times where, Beasley came or, you name it, Arion Carter, Caleb Perry, Jeremiah T-Lander, whoever was in. I remember some scenarios where they blitzed. They weren't nearly as effective as they have been, which is kind of funny when you think about the havoc that Rattler was facing. But, I mean, you're correct. I wanted to see it as well. I wanted to see pressure all night long, thankfully. And for the first time, again, in a while, we were able to get it with 4 a lot of times. That's just been rare. And it's certainly what we need. It's certainly why you bring in 2 edge guys like Josephs and Pierce in a class, and we've continued to do it. There's young pups behind them that should be able to keep this type of thing going. But yeah, I mean, the whole I can't really think. Obviously they hit a huge run, but you're going to get got sometimes, and I can't think of many other scenarios where the defense just wasn't superb.
No, for sure. You mentioned the long run. Mario Anderson breaks a 75-yard run to begin the third quarter. And I'm not going to say that's a fluke play because it happened. All right, it happened. But if you look outside of that play, he's 9 for 26.
Yes.
9 for 26. Spencer Rattler's 11 for 19 on a 17-yard run, that being his longest. I was absolutely tickled with the rush defense. Obviously, you don't want to give up the long play because I believe that at that moment in time, put them back in it. Making that, let's see, we went into the half 31-7 or 24-7, excuse me.
I think it was 10. It was
24-10.
24-10.
Okay, yeah, 24-10. So that run puts them at 24-17, right? So that puts them right back in it.
Tennessee actually got the ball. I think went up 31-10, and then they hit the run.
Okay, is that what it was? Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, even still, 1-score, 2-score game. The big play you needed because it's a big chunk of yards. It's a score with basically no time off the clock, going up against an offense like ours. But the rush defense and the pass rush, excuse me. 2 pieces of our identity that are different than last year.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely. Yeah. The sack numbers have been, now granted, this is, it's South Carolina, it's Florida are the best teams
Game 2.
played.
Game 2.
But the sack numbers, the pressure numbers they're only rising. So things you need to see.
Yeah. I want to continue to see those guys healthy. And maybe Elijah Simmons had something to do with that. I believe his contributions are not necessarily going to show up on the stat sheet. He's probably gonna absorb some double teams just due to sheer size or width or girth, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
My concern going in was Leggett. He was not a factor.
No.
He was not a factor. He 5 catches, 50 yards, 32 yards came off the fake punt.
Yeah. And look. Officiating has been so bad. That's a pick in my mind.
I want to address that. Yep.
It's so inconsistent on when it's called, but you're correct. You're 100% correct. 32, his longest catch was on a fake punt. So he has 18 yards on 4 other catches.
Yeah.
And that's not what he's doing right now. Yeah.
Right. But they're never going to call that because they're not looking for that on a punt. They're not looking for the pick. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It was a pick, but they're never going to call that. And my issue with that was not that. My issue was that the defense couldn't hear me through my TV screen saying his dad is Frank Beamer. His dad is Frank Beamer. His dad is Frank Beamer. It's going to come at some point. And you said, did they not, rep this in practice? They probably did. I just don't know if they were ready for it in that moment. I mean, they probably called, pump block, punt, or, middle, left, right, whatever, saying we're going to expect something, but we're not going to expect it in this moment. That drive ends, I believe, with them nothing. They got nothing off that drive, if I remember right. Or did they get 3?
You're correct. 3 at most. 3 at most.
Yeah. Which super pleased with. I want to say they went for it on 4th down and did not convert. But I mean, defensively, man, I'm absolutely tickled against. I think we did what we should against an abysmal offensive line and against a quarterback who was playing like one of the best in the country. Did not have a good night. 24 for 35, 169, and a pick. So not good on his end. But in his defense, I don't know what you expected out of him with the pressure that was taking place. And I would have said that if this was South Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, whoever.
Yeah. I think if anything, they missed some opportunities to, have 2 guys run routes, everybody else is blocking, and just test the DB. I think they missed some opportunities to do just some unique things. I mean, honestly, I couldn't tell you what Rattler's longest pass attempt was. Yeah, they have a long reception to Marion Brown of 44 yards. He had 47 total. But I mean, they couldn't find a way to test the secondary in any sort of way that they did last year when Rattler broke out for his season at that point against Tennessee. They had no opportunities. They didn't design any opportunities. They didn't try to scheme it up. They didn't make it happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. I just lost you in my earbuds. I'm gonna pop these off real quick. I was like, what's going on? I still cut the just what you're saying though. No, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah,
and you just said something a minute ago. We think they failed on another 4th down attempt after the fake punt. Well, here's another new and different thing for Tennessee's defense. 2 of 15 on 3rd down with South Carolina. 2 of 5 on 4th down. That's new, and that's different. Tennessee, on the other hand, was 7 of 15 on 3rd down, 1 of 1 on 4th, so 8 of 16 overall, 50%. These are things that we're more accustomed to from Tennessee's offense, and holding a team to 4 of 20 on 3rd and 4th down has not been the move for Tennessee's defense. So that's such a breath of fresh air.
No, absolutely. If only we could have seen some of these numbers in the 2022 defense.
100%.
The things that could have been accomplished.
100%.
Yeah. So again, pleased with Tennessee's defense. Saw some time for some dudes that I didn't know that we were gonna see. I think we saw Thielander earlier than expected.
Most definitely.
And I don't know what to think about that. I don't know if that's cause for concern or if it's excitement in the development of Thielander and how he's coming along. Nonetheless, he put up 2 tackles. Saw quite a bit of him and Arian Carter. Saw quite a bit, as you mentioned, of Caleb Perry. Aaron Beasley, a quiet night overall, all because the front 4 got it done. I'm not really concerned, to be truthful.
Well, that's another thing. This leads me to another thing I wanted to say. I mean, South Carolina had 27 rush attempts. That factors in 6 sacks, I believe, from Rattler because I know he didn't take off 11 times, which is what he's, down in the stat box for. So, let's say 21 rush attempts.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those are going to go at Aaron Beasley with what he's done since, late last season when he broke out?
Yeah.
How much is actually going to go his way? I think that's bad from the perspective of South Carolina that they Rattler's got 35 pass attempts. And again, they've got like 16 true rush attempts from their running backs, which they're super thin. I mean, Mario Anderson, couldn't tell you where he transferred in from. DeCarrion Joyner is not a running back. Juju McDowell, again, a guy that's not going to cut it at running back at a lot of places. And those guys got like 5 attempts combined with Mario Anderson getting 10 of his own. But that's just not enough. I don't think that's very wise when you're playing Tennessee. I think if you're getting 2 or 3 a pop, you got to take it. You got to do that to keep the defense more honest, maybe set up a little play action and slow down the pass rush. These are some of the issues I expect, though, when, and we've talked about it, you hire a retread tight end, was a tight end coach as your OC when you had massive problems at that staff position before. Yeah.
I thought Juju McDowell was their best pass pro back. And I was expecting more snaps out of him. And I think he showed it even on Saturday night that he's their best pass pro back. But I'm with you on what you're saying with regards to their rotation. And you know who's responsible for that, right?
Montario
Hardesty. They were wanting to leave him in Knoxville as they went back home to Columbia.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we wanted to cover on the defensive side? I thought Judy Lally had a good game. How McDonald dropped that, never touched that pick. I'm not real sure. Mind blows. Let's talk Kamal Hadden for a minute.
Let's do it.
You had mentioned going into this, it's not going to take much for the lid to pop off. I felt like it took a minute.
Yeah, it seemed like it did take. The crowd was great. I'm not saying they're not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But with what I was expecting from literally just the revenge factor, if this game was played at noon, literally just the revenge factor, it did seem like it took just a minute longer. And let me circle back to play calling and decisions. When they throw that pick six to Kamal Hadden, it's something like 3rd and 15 or 17.
3rd and 22.
3rd and 22, under a minute to go, and you're on you're on your own 10, if that.
Around there, yeah.
And you decide to drop back. I don't think there was a back end to block James Pierce or anybody for that matter. I don't think it might have been 5 wide or the back may have gone out for a route. Nonetheless, Pierce speeds him up and he throws it right to Kamal Hadden because of the pass rush that he was facing.
Yeah.
A mile over Leggette's head, I think, was the intended target.
Yeah.
What is that decision? I mean, think about those points. If Tennessee doesn't get that touchdown before half, obviously it's like a 7-point game at half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tennessee scored on the first drive and they looked great doing it.
Yeah.
But that is such a mind-boggling decision for me to even attempt to pass the ball there, even if it was. I mean, you're throwing a screen if you're passing the ball there, as far as I'm concerned, because you can't block. So I just don't know what you're doing. And again, these are issues that I expect if you hire someone that's not a great offensive coordinator.
For sure. Lots of tweets out there on Kamal Hadden and why he was so far back. What was he doing? It was 3rd and 22. He should be backed off.
Let's say Leggett catches that pass. He's right there in his hip pocket to come up and make the tackle.
Yes. I thought Kamal Hadden had a great night.
One of his best nights.
Outside of the pick. But with the pick, it was almost as if that is what blew the lid off on the stadium. I feel like that's when the crowd finally, there it was.
When you can hear the volume difference change like that in a video and you're not in the building, that's how you know. Yes.
I found some numbers on Kamal Hadden. This comes from PFF. Their grading system is weird. Like 90 to 100 is absolutely elite. Your good grades are like 70 to 75, 70, 70, something like 70 to 79, something like that.
Yeah, like example, Brock Bowers wins the game for Georgia Saturday, and he had a 94.3, instead of like a 200 like it should have been.
Solely based off the second half, right?
Yeah.
Kamal Hadden's coverage grade right now is sitting at 86, an even 86. That's good for 10th nationally. He's been targeted 26 times. He's allowed 10 completions. His completion percentage when targeted is 38.5%. He's allowed 26 yards. He's allowed 6.4 yards after the catch. He's got 5 pass breakups and 2 picks.
Yeah, and it's hard to not be hard on a guy coming off the Austin Peay penalties, coming off the piss poor tackle attempt in the swamp. It's hard to not be, just soul crushing on a guy.
Yeah.
But the point remains and stands, and I don't know how you argue it at this point. And I'm the one saying this, and I've been very hard on the guy, but he's got to be the best cover corner on the team. Tackling is one thing, and that's never a cornerback's forte. But and look, you just said it. His yards after the reception, when he has allowed them, is not much. But coming up and playing safety basically on a run that leaks through, that's never a corner's forte. And look, the attempt was pitiful, but he's Tennessee's best cover corner, I think, right now for sure.
I mean, if that's the conversation we're going to have, he could have had a totally different impact on the Florida game entirely if he brings that guy down. Just bring him 100%. Down. But we're not going to be a dead horse. We're not going to dig up graves. Right. Moving forward. Joseph's got a lot of time. Garland got a sack. Dominic Bailey counted for a half sack. Amari Thomas counted for a sack. Pierce had 2. Omar Norman Lott had a half sack. We set up camp in the backfield, dude. From the get-go, Bryson Eason made an impact, I believe, play number 1. We saw quite a bit in the secondary in Deshaun Rucker. In who were the other ones? Obviously, Haddon, we've talked about him. Judy Lally, McDonald, Walker. We saw more. Slaughter saw time. He just obviously did not register a stat.
Yeah. Because, largely because of the time that was there to pass the ball.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah. And again, Wesley Walker had a really good night. So let's flip over to the offensive side of the football. And man, my temptation here is to lead with Joe, but my heart says lead with the 3-headed monster.
Well, real quick, my heart says lead with Brew. And that's just devastating. A lot of guys won't come out and say it, but Joe said it in the post game that he didn't want to play anymore immediately.
Yeah,
and I felt that way. I was like, just call it.
Yeah,
we're up. Call the game.
Yeah,
their offense wasn't doing much.
Right.
And that is such a huge amount of adversity when it's that. Like I saw tweets and they were like, "Never seen the cart get out to a player so fast." It took me a minute to see it. Full disclosure, and there was no replay, which I was grateful for. They obviously did show him laying there for a minute, and then you see his lower leg. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee hasn't won with as much adversity really in this era. There's not been devastating injuries like that, with the exception of Hooker, and a few minor other examples. But yeah, I just got to lead with that. Whatever he does, if he goes pro, if he wants to come back and use his last year, support him fully. Love the guy. I mean, didn't think we'd get this much out of him when he came from USC.
We didn't. I mean, with the NCAA sitting on their hands, we didn't even know if he was going to play. So
exactly.
I think the Tennessee fans who are so optimistic on his return probably need to rethink their perspective.
Yeah,
he's an NFL receiver.
Oh yeah,
the physicality that he brings, his footwork, hands, he has it all. His top end speed is not great, but I thought that it improved from previous year.
Oh yeah.
The only argument I have to that is we do live in an NIL world and there's money to be made now on this end. But when they typically have an injury like this, it's going to hurt. Yeah.
It's going to hurt the NIL stock and the draft stock. So hopefully he gets the best counsel and advice on making that decision.
Yeah. I hate, of all people, of all dang people, man. Family came in from California, I believe, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson. I feel so good with whoever's in the backfield. I really do. I don't care. Like, obviously, Jalen Wright, I believe, is still the front runner. You and I have gone back and forth for that a little bit, but 16 for 123 for Jalen and a score. Had a long of 42. Jabari Small, 11 for 59. He had a score, long of 21. Dylan Sampson, 9 of 49. Yes, he had the least amount of yards, Dylan Sampson, but his were the flashiest.
Well, and then you think about and it only worked once, but you think about the little shovel pass.
Yeah.
Fresh off the NFL and Miami Dolphin presses. Tennessee works it in the next week. 37 yards on the first one that Tennessee tries, and that was a flashy play. I mean, that puts him over 80, actually puts him over 90 scrimmage yards just on 11 touches in the game. Yeah. Like you just said it. Whoever lines up, there is so much to like. With Jabari, I love his vision. With Jalen, I just love where he's at right now. I didn't even realize the numbers that he put up on Saturday until way after the fact, well into yesterday.
Yeah.
And Sampson, I mean, it's hard not to think a little bit of Alvin Kamara when you see the things that he does, how shifty he can be, and then the speed on top of it. It's going to be beautiful to watch what he blossoms into.
Oh, for sure. Regarding Dylan Sampson, you know that the Miami Dolphins head coach and owner are kind of licking their chops. Like, how do we get our hands on this guy?
We need another running back.
So Jalen Wright, 61 carries on the year, 435 yards, only one touchdown according to ESPN. For some reason, that does not feel right. But the thing I like about Jalen Wright right now is he's making every first guy miss.
Yep.
Making every first guy miss. Same thing with Dylan Sampson. You mentioned Jabari Small's vision. Love, trust. I mean, you just gotta like what and what's so great about them as well is our offense depends so much on the success of the run in order to get tempo going. Everybody thinks you got to connect on the deep ball. No, you got to run. I believe I said we could achieve something between a 4.5, yard per carry, and even see it as high as 6. I don't know what this number is in its finality. I think I just made up a word, but it's got to be up there.
It looks like it's 6
when
you take into account everyone that ran the ball, which even includes Squirrel getting it on like a pop pass type deal or something of the nature.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to look. I think the magic number for Tennessee rushing yards wise is actually 160 from what I hear people talk about. Like if they go for 160, they haven't lost and they're not going to.
Wow.
But the bigger number to me is if you're at 6, but I mean, if you're at 5 yards a carry in this offense, I don't see how you lose the game. Because, Jabari and Dylan Sampson both had 5.4. Jalen has 7.7, and again, his longest run was only 42, so it's not like he hit a Mario Anderson on him. But, I mean, you're not going to lose when the run game works that well. And here's where I want to talk about Cooper Mays, because, boy, did everything look different.
Oh, for sure. The most noticeable, the physicality of the offensive line.
Physicality, and for me, that's the least that we've thrown horizontally at the line of scrimmage. We haven't. That's been the primary play outside of the handoff. That's been the primary play. And, I mean, I know we did it, but it was far, far less than it has been.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I believe I went into this saying, don't be surprised if we see a handful of it, but we didn't really take too many shots downfield either. I mean, you had the one to Squirrel White, which he says that he don't even know how he caught that. But excellent point. Joe Milton, as we transition into that, 21 for 32, 239. I think I hear a cricket outside my window. 1 touchdown and 2 picks, and his picks were bad.
Yeah.
I think both were bad. The first one, credit to South Carolina. I think that Joe Milton had made up his mind pre-snap where he was going. They showed cover 2, rolled in quickly into a cover 3. Well done on their end. Those are right to them, which sets them up for some points on the scoreboard. Second pick, people are all over Jacob Warren on Twitter, and I don't get that. That ball is clearly underthrown and inside straight to the defender. That's on Joe. That's on Joe. That is not on Jacob Warren. That is on Joe. Other than that, I think we know at this point. I feel like we can safely say we know who Joe Milton is.
I agree. I mean, it's not his nature still not his nature to throw a ball. We've seen him do it a couple times, but just shocked that he didn't put that ball in the back corner of the end zone, if anywhere, going to Jacob Warren. I don't get it. Now, I was confused why it maybe wasn't McCallan Castles, because I think someone like him, certainly a receiver, might have another step over Jacob. I mean, Jacob is not fast. Let's call it like it is. But that was my confusion there. He gets no blame on the interception, though. Joe leaves it short, leaves it, like you just said, inside, and you just – that's the one place you can't throw it. Throw it
Yep.
Throw it out of the end zone. Don't throw it short and inside right there. And I agree with you. I don't know that he had his mind made up when the ball was snapped on the first pick, but he obviously didn't look when he comes back to the middle of the field. I think he looked right, and then he looks back to the middle. He was there was no question he was throwing that ball at that point.
Yes, yeah, for sure. On Jacob Warren, just for the moment, his touchdown catch, I thought he made one heck of an athletic play in order to secure that score. But absolutely. Yeah, again on Joe and the underthrow that was this pick. We talked about touch with Joe. Going into this year, can he do it? Can he soften up? And he did. We don't get to complain. We don't get both right. Our cake in it, eat it too. He put touch on it. Didn't put enough on it. Hence the pick. But with Joe, we learned a lot, and we should have known. We should have known going, or at least at some point in this game, they're talking about 20 touchdowns, 1 pick since his time at Tennessee. He just doesn't throw picks, and then he throws 2. We should have known. Right, we should have known.
Yep.
But regarding Joe, I think we know who he is at this point. And they talked about, I believe it's Cole Kubelik right there on the sideline, how dependent Joe can be on Cooper Mays, and how sometimes Cooper will get him out of a bad check and say, no, this is what we need to be doing, and how smart and dependable Cade Mays is at the position. We saw it. There was a physicalness there. I believe the 5 that you saw on Saturday night are the best 5 pieces to form an offensive line for us. Super excited to have him back. Real excited that he's going to get to now go into a bye week with some actual game experience underneath his belt as we go into hosting Texas A&M. But you nailed it, man. We saw I want to call him Cade again. We saw the Cooper Mays effect. And I just wish, going back, that Cooper could have played against Florida, because this team that we saw on Saturday could have beaten Florida.
Oh,
that team could have beaten Florida.
They would have beat them by 2 touchdowns, I think, in the Swamp. I agree with you. This looks like the best 5 to me. I wonder if it'll be Ollie or Andre Karic at left guard because Probably. Of his absence on Saturday. We didn't hear much about Andre leading up to the season. And then, we start to find out how long Cooper would be out, and that puts him in action. I totally agree. This is the best 5. You got to get in the, here's the thing. I think you got to get in the portal for maybe a backup quarterback, someone that is willing to be, a mentor to Nico, or go in and lead the offense if there's not, an opportunity for them elsewhere. And you have to get a center in this program if these guys are still not ready, because we can't lose Cooper Mays and then, get weeks 1 through 4 of Tennessee's offense at times.
Well, if that's our conversation, if Addison Nichols is not ready at that position by year 3,
you got to go, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe center's not your position.
Exactly.
Yeah. With the injury to Brew, and with the whatever it is that's going on with Thornton, I know Coach Heupel said it. He's not going to do it. But why not look to D. Williams to get him some offensive touches?
Man, I don't know. He's Cordero Patterson 2023 with the ball in his hand.
I like it.
I just don't get
almost like it more. I almost like him more.
Yeah, he's like, just look at the career of Devin Hester, and that's your model for this guy in college right now.
Yeah.
There's real excitement for me, because now there's really not going to be a question that you're probably going to get Thornton and Squirrel on the field at the same time. And that's just a lot of speed. Mm-hmm. That should help Ramel Keaton open up more, I think. And I'm also, if it's Webb instead of one of those guys, Thornton or Squirrel, I'm highly excited about that. I think Webb is a superstar in the making. But
it wasn't even Webb that we saw. It was Chaz Nimrod that stepped in.
Exactly. Now, and that's where I've got some confusion. But we were in this position on a lot smaller scale in the sense that Tillman didn't have a season-ending devastating injury.
Yeah.
So who's going to be this time? Because Nimrod certainly got the opportunities. We saw him create space last week and not haul it in. We saw him with a drop on Saturday. He did haul one in for 10 yards or so, but it's time, guys. Who's it going to be? Webb, Is it going to be Thornton? Is it going to be Nimrod? You tell me, because it's now or never at this point.
That's true. However, I know there's going to be a drop off, but it's not a kind of drop off that makes me nervous.
Well, the only thing that makes me nervous is the yak. Is when Brew lowers his body and pushes a guy forward. That's really it for me. The blocking is superb. I mean, he's one of the better wide receiver blockers that we've had in some time. I mean, some serious time, 15, 20 years.
JJ
in Tennessee. Yeah, Jennings, I mean, for sure. But, that's what gets me more so than his outright playmaking ability, because you've so far relied on him clutch moments, whether it's picking up critical yards after the catch or throwing one up to him. And who's going to be that guy is now my concern, because we don't have the blocking and the yak as far as I'm concerned right now.
Yeah. Well, Chaz Nimrod had an opportunity to extend the drive. And wait, was that? Hang on. Am I thinking about last game? I think that was this bro. Week. Stuff is running together.
I believe that was this week. I know he had a drop. I'm just fuzzy on when it was.
Pretty sure it was put right in his numbers. Well, nonetheless, D. Williams touchdown, shoulda, coulda, woulda, stood, made a block in the back that was totally unnecessary by a guy that we didn't even know was on the roster.
Yeah. Just
let that go. Nonetheless, I mean, it makes for great highlight film because he continues to be absolutely electric. And I wanted to mention this too. Cameron Seldon had a kick return. We're talking about the three-headed monster. I mean, obviously we have a lot of reason to be excited about him. So, man, I think that's all I got. Anything that you want to add to before we hop off of here?
Man, I don't think so. I mean, I think about some of the questions that we asked previewing this game. Can Tennessee start fast? Well, they kind of did. Then they kind of faltered on the second drive. Things did change a little bit schematically on offense in the terms that we didn't see as much horizontal passing. Yeah. And we saw more throws to the sticks and beyond than we have seen for sure. I think I asked as well, could we keep our lanes defensively? And Rattler running just was not a thing after the first bit of the game. I mean, it just wasn't.
Well,
he was probably seeing absolute monsters and stars when that opportunity would have come up. So, credit to the defense, mad credit, and props to the offense for sure for putting up 34. I mean, not bad.
Yeah, no kidding. That one makes me wish that I was on Rocky Top. That one I wanted to be. I wish I could have seen that. That.
That's what we've got to do in 2024.
Which is get a ticket.
Kneeland at night. Yep. Dark mode. Hopefully at night. That's got to be our next destination, my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave with this as you mentioned that. Came across this tweet right before we hopped on. This tweet says 2009, 2021, 2023 only times Tennessee wore the blackout unis. The opponent, South Carolina. No one else. # Super Bowl. That is incorrect. We wore them against 2021 Georgia. The Smoky Grays we've won against Georgia. So get your business out of here and out of my timeline because you are wrong. And this is Pandemonium Reigns. Make sure you like and subscribe, making sure that we are tickling all of your ears. Hopefully you don't have more than 2 because that would be weird. We love you guys. God bless. Go Vols.
GBO.
Pandemonium Reigns.